Good evening, citizens, heroes, and villains. Welcome to Sean Humburg's Creative Corner. I'm Sean Humburg. Today we are going to be screen printing. So there are several different ways that you can screen print, all of which need the screen. Now, you can get these screens on Amazon for $20 for a pair of them. They're not expensive. One way you could do it inexpensively is to just buy a stencil. And by buying a stencil, you can make something like this. My little girl made this for herself using this stencil and this screen press. So another way that you can do it, if you don't want to buy a stencil and you really want to put your own spin on it, is that you can make your own stencil. This stencil was used to make this shirt for my wife. Aside from the stencil method, you don't have to buy stencil material. You can just use poster board. Aside from the stencil method, you can use what's called photo emulsion. With photo emulsion, you can use a transfer sheet and draw on your own design. So drawing this design, we were able to create this screen print right here. Now, the next step up from that is to print your own design. So this right here was done with transfer paper and a laser printer. And if you have that ability, you can also get transfer paper with inkjet rather than laser. You can create an unlimited amount of designs. So one of the great things about screen printing is it's an inexpensive way to give you a very professional look, whether you want to make t-shirts, messenger bags, curtains. I mean, you can put this on anything. You could actually put it on canvas. So today we're going to be working on our own branding. With this, you can create your own logos, advertise for your website, or just decorate however you want. And even make sure that people like and subscribe. Leave in the comment section down below what you'd like to see in future videos. Let's get to it. With all the different screen printings, once you buy a stencil, it all works the same. The only difference between using a stencil and using an emulsion is that you're actually turning your screen itself into your stencil. So I'm going to show you that process because it's definitely the easiest way to do it. And while you may need to spend $20 more to get the emulsion, it's a lot better way to go and a lot easier route to take than to constantly tape up your stencil or try to cut out a stencil or anything along those lines. To do the photo emulsion, we're using the Speedball Diazo photo emulsion kit. I'm not going to show you the entire mixing process and everything like that because there's already a million videos on YouTube how to do that. But I am going to show you how I apply it once it is mixed. Now I will say, once you do have your mixture together, it's very important to leave it in the fridge because in the fridge it can last for months. While leaving it out, it'll only last for about 2 weeks. So once you actually have your mixture made, you want to go ahead and pour some of it out onto your screen. You don't want to pour out too much because scooping it up can be a little difficult. You basically want to drag it all over your screen. And I'm starting with the bottom edge because some of it is going to push through. If you're doing everything right, you should hear this really nice zipping sound. If you're not hearing that, you're either pushing way too hard or not enough. Now, after you use a screen print a while, you may see some fraying like this. Make sure that that doesn't get glued into what you're working on. For this part, it is okay to have lighting. Once it is dry, you do not want to have any light on this because it will solidify every part of what you're doing. So basically what we're doing is we're creating this layer that's liquid right now. We're going to allow it to dry very much like letting Elmer's glue dry. Once that happens, it's not completely solidified yet though. It solidifies with heavy light being placed on it for about 10 minutes. So everywhere the light's not hitting, it's still staying a semi-liquid state. What we're going to be doing is placing our logo on top of it, preventing light from getting to certain areas. Then we wash that out and we have a stencil. So that is it. That's what it takes to actually coat the screen. Now what you need to do is put this in a very dark room, support all 4 corners, and allow it to dry. Now, if you just want to allow it to dry, you should probably leave it overnight. If, however, you're able to put a fan on it and allow that fan to blow across it and get both sides, then you can actually go ahead and use this after just a couple of hours. We're gonna let this dry and then continue on to our next step. Okay, so our screens have officially dried. So I've turned one of my lights off. That's why the lighting is a little bit weird. Because the light that I'm going to use to solidify the screen is one of my lights. So I'm gonna get the screens. We're gonna go into the next step. This step really does have to be fast. So there's not going to be any retakes on this one. So what happens happens. So let me go grab them and then we're going to get to the next step. We have our dried screens and we're going to go ahead and get them set up. Like I said before, we have to move quickly. And take this. Doesn't fit that way. Does it fit all the way across? It would fit all the way across. So, time to get a bit dicey. Okay, so for this I want to use clear tape because anything that the light is not touching is going to stay liquid. Now that I've got everything there the way that I want it, I'm going to cover it back up because I do not want it getting messed up yet. All right, now we have this one, which I stupidly had sitting right in light because I'm a dum-dum. We have everything that we're wanting to block in here. So once the light hits the green area really hard, it's going to start drying. Now we're going to lay this over both of our things here and turn it on. Now we wait 10 minutes to see if it's a success. Set a timer for 10 minutes. So it's been 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and grab our screens. We're in my kitchen. I've got camera 1, camera 2. Yeah. Let me go grab our screen. Okay, so we have our screens. So we're going to go ahead and peel everything up here. Just realized that you guys aren't actually seeing me. You're kind of seeing the back of my head. All right, so we're going to go and start peeling everything off. And one of the first things you'll notice is that there are 2 different shades of green here. We want to immediately start washing this off. And what we're doing is washing off the area that did not dry. More water is going to start going through as those areas wash off. You don't want to scrub too hard. You don't want to mess up some of the stuff you already have right. Okay, you definitely want to inspect it thoroughly to make sure there are no areas left, because anything left is going to stop ink from getting through on your final print. Alright, so there we go. You can see now where the green stayed and everything else went away. You may be asking yourself 2 questions. 1, does this make a mess and didn't water get everywhere? Yes, it absolutely did. Expect to make messes. It's half the fun of having having art projects. And question 2, Sean, is that a My Little Pony toothbrush? Yes, it is. And my answer to that is, don't ask questions. Okay, so now we just either leave them to dry or go ahead and pat them down with a paper towel or towel. So I'm going to go ahead and dry them and we'll be back. One thing that I do advise after you've gotten everything cleaned off is to go ahead and put your silk screens right back under a light just to make sure that all the edges are as hard and crisp as everything else. Because the light doesn't perfectly permeate every area. Once you've got it cleaned off and once you've got everything that you know you want, stick it back under a light and make sure that everything's 100% hardened. Okay, so now you can really see, once everything is cured and done, how this area right here is clear and this area is harder to see through. So this has actually inlaid a solid material or semi-solid material between all the tiny microscopic holes between the silk, allowing us to coat everything else the way we want to. Okay, so now it's time to get ready to actually make a shirt. We have our screen print here, but not everything is going to be printed in the same color, firstly. Secondly, not everything is going to actually be on the same clothing. So my website here, I don't want to be on the t-shirts, so don't need that at all. So I'm going to go and cover that up with my masking tape here. The creative corner part is going to be in white, so that doesn't need to be there. So the only part we're going to actually be printing through right now is the logo. I would advise that if you're going to be using a favorite shirt or whatever you want your final project to be, that's not what you start with. I'm going to start by putting a piece of cardboard inside the shirt where the ink is going to be, because we don't want it to bleed through and go to the other side. I would advise laying out your shirt, finding the seams, making sure everything is folded at the seams, not just to make it straight, but also so you have a point of reference to make sure that everything is lined up the way you want it to be. So right off the bat, I can see that I've got my whole t-shirt laid out crooked here. So I can rotate it this way. A good logo should be about 4 fingers down from your starting point. So I'm going to put it right here. Make sure that everything is lined up and centered. Now it is time to screen print. So I'm going to take my red right here because the logo is going to be in red. And I'm going to put, don't have to go crazy with it, but I'm going to put a little bit right here. I'm going to take my squeegee, which I need to make sure is completely dry. Go ahead and pull the ink across lightly right now, just to make sure it fills everything in. Okay, and I can see that there's some areas that it hasn't, so you pull it on through. All right, now we see that it's filled everything in. I feel like it's a little light right there. Now we're going to push at a 45-degree angle to take everything back off. And then lift. And we have a screen print. Look at that. Beautiful. All right, so let's go ahead and put it on another shirt. Helpful tip, if you did get a little bit of red or a little bit of ink where you didn't need it, grab a thick brush and wash it out. Once you have your screen print done, you want to hit it with a heat gun until it's dry, and before you do any other part. All right, once you think it's dry enough, you can dab it, just barely touch it, and see if anything comes up on your hand. If it doesn't, you're all good. Okay, now we need to go wash some stuff off before we can do the creative corner part. So first I'm going to go ahead and pull off my masking from here. Ooh. Well, we know that's going to come out nicely. And I can leave it right there because we're still not going to use the website part, but I'm going to go ahead and take it off just because I want to make sure, there's absolutely no red left in this thing. So let me go wash this out. I'll be right back. So now we want to get the creative corner part of the logo in. And I want to do that in white. So I'm going to go and flip this back around. And we don't have to realign everything else again. We just need to make sure this area is flat because we're going to use our screen to realign the bottom part. And look through it and line it up with our logo from the first part. So now that I have it lined up, I'm going to make sure to hold this part steady. And I'm going to slide this right there so that none of the ink gets right here. Okay, so I have my little bit of white right here. We do not need a lot. And there we go. I have my first Sean Humburg's Creative Corner official t-shirt. Again, thank you for watching. Can't wait to see what we build together next. Sean Humburg signing out.